Hey guys, so welcome back to the channel. So this is my first time doing any type of competitive programming whatsoever, and I just wanted to talk to you about how I feel about it and my experience doing it. So I'm doing Google Kickstart round E2020. Today's August 23rd, and it's currently 2:24 a.m. So I've been doing this for the past 1 hour 30 minutes, and maybe 2 hours. And I haven't been solving the question for like 2 hours, the chunk of my time actually. So I was talking to my cousin and she was really distracting me, telling me about some stuff. So I had to get out of the conversation. So that was the very first distraction. And the second chunk of my time was spent figuring out how to use a platform and all that. So one thing you should note is that I spent almost 90% of the time figuring out how to use the Google Kickstart platform because this is my first time. I didn't really look at videos and tutorials on how to use the platform. I just registered and went into it. So first things first is that the input that you're given is not conventional as what you'd see on LeetCode or HackerRank, because those platforms already have you get the test cases already programmed for you. For here, what we have to do is to get the test cases from the input stream. So you have to actually get the test cases from the keyboard inputs. In Java, you can use scanners. In C++, you can use like the cin to get the test cases. So that took a lot of my time figuring out how to get the inputs and all of that. So the question is longest arithmetic sequence, and this is actually a very, very simple question. So my favorite topic in math in high school was APGP. We used to call it APGP, but it's just arithmetic progression and geometric progression. And to find the nth term of an arithmetic sequence, the formula is a plus n minus 1d. And as soon as I saw this question, I knew it had to do with something like that. So this was the implementation that I did. I used a plus n minus 1d to find the nth term, and then continuing finding the nth term and figuring out if that nth term belongs to the sequence. So, and you have to find the longest arithmetic sequence. So whenever you find the sequence and whenever the pattern breaks, you have to figure out what the length of that pattern is and then compare it to the previous pattern and all that. So it's pretty classic LeetCode stuff, right? So another thing again is what I did when I came to this platform is that the editor, the Google Kickstart editor, is extremely difficult to use. So I came over to Sarah's code editor, and that's where I did all my coding. And after that, I copied and pasted the code over to Google Kickstart editor, and then I had difficulty in like figuring out how to do test cases. So I came over to the FAQs. Just gonna quickly go over, and then this is exactly what I copied, and I copied it over. And I haven't used the actual Java scanner class in a really, really long time. I think it was my junior year in college. So I had to come over to the scanner class and then look at the methods to figure out how to actually get the inputs. So that took about an hour, maybe more. And after that, I copied and pasted the code to the Kickstart editor, but then it still didn't work. So the reason why it didn't work, because I didn't see a way to debug your code from here. You just submit the questions and they tell you like compilation error or runtime error and then wrong answer, but you don't really see like what went wrong and things like LeetCode where you can actually see the input that you were given and what went wrong and all of that. So you really be prepared for that if you want to go into coding competitions and all that. So what I did for debugging is that I went to this online Java compiler, jdoodle.com, and then I wrote down a bunch of debugging statements and I debugged the code and then it worked perfectly. And then I copied and pasted the code in the Kickstart editor, but again, it didn't work. The reason why it didn't work again is because, so if you come over here to the JDoodle editor, the class is called myClass, right? If you come over to the Google Kickstart editor, class is called solution. So I didn't really take that into account. I just copied the entire thing. As a LeetCoder, I should figure out that the classes should be called solutions, but I didn't think it was an issue. So that took about another 30 minutes, getting a bunch of compilation errors. I think those were these three. And then after that, I had to change the class name to solution. I don't know what came over me, but I really changed the class name and then it worked. So that's it. I'm quickly going to run you through my solution. I have about a minute remaining, so I'm not going to check out the other questions anymore. Let's see, I'll probably rank in the bottom 1%, but I really don't care. This was a really cool experience for me, and maybe I'll participate in other coding interviews. maybe I'll participate in other competitive programming rounds. But this question was really simple. So come over here. Let me expand this. So what you do is, all this, I don't want you to worry about this. This is all getting the input and all of that. I'll use recursion to figure out what the current sequence is, and then the length of the current sequence, and then compare it to the previous sequence. So first of all, you get the length of the current sequence that you're looking at, so where you're starting, and then the length of the array, and then had a bunch of edge cases and error checks, just like a typical programming interview. And then every two elements are part of a sequence. That's just that. So if you go like 1, 2, it's exactly a sequence, because 2, 1, they have the same difference between them, right? And then so what you really need to worry about is when you're given an array of length, say 3, that's when sequences start to change. So if it's less than 2, just return whatever the current longest is, or just the length of the current sequence, right? So we max that, and then we get the first term, and then we get the second term, and then we get the current difference, and then we apply a formula, little formula here. Where is it? That is right here, a plus n minus 1d, and after getting the formula, we calculate the potential term. After calculating potential term, we check if our current term is a potential term. If it is, then we just increment the current longest, and then we move in to check for the next element in the array. If it isn't, then the pattern has been broken, so now we need to check for the next sequence. So we call a recursive function, we pass the current longest, and then we start checking from the previous index where the pattern broke, and then we pass in the array, and then it worked. All the test cases passed, and I copied and pasted it and submitted it, and it worked. So that's it, guys. That's my review of Google Kickstart competitive programming. If you're ever doing some type of competitive programming, first of all, I don't think you should use Java, because of the Java is really verbose. You'd have to write long lines of code. So something like C++ or Python would be ideal for competitive programming. And then don't ever in your life use this editor, because it's only going to slow you down. Like it can't even like resize. So that's another thing. And also try to figure out like your test cases, how to get inputs and all of that before getting into Google Kickstart. And also that's pretty much it. I don't know, maybe I got an easy question, but I'll look into the other questions. All right, so that's been a total rant from me. I don't know what to say. Like, comment, subscribe, share this video around the community, and we'll keep solving more coding interview questions. Bye-bye.